Last Resort is a horizontal shmup, originally released for the Neo Geo in 1992 and the CD version following in '94. You pilot a cyberjet ship, which has a striking resemblance to the R-9a Arrowhead from R-Type. The similarities don't stop there, as you control an orb which can soak up bullets as well as deliver extra firepower. However, this is where the similarities end, and Last Resort mostly feels like a unique title. The main gimmick here is the orb. Rather than docking on the front of your ship or the back, it will actually circle around your ship, moving in the opposite direction you're moving. So, if you press up, it will move downward. It can also be locked into place, but will continue to fire in the opposite direction of your movement, allowing you to shoot in pretty much any direction on the screen. The orb can also be charged up and fired like a projectile. The power-ups on the screen will flash red and blue, and this will control the specific firing behavior of the orb. When blue, the orb will ricochet around the screen. If red, it will stick to the walls for a short while. It's quite versatile, and mastering the movement is key to success. That said, even after playing this one for the past 7 years or so, it has never quite felt natural to me. Perhaps my brain isn't wired for this type of mechanic, or perhaps the mechanic is a bit too gimmicky for its own good. Everything else is fairly standard. The weapons are unremarkable, and everything you would expect from an early 90s shmup. What is remarkable are the graphics and atmosphere. The first level in particular features many background layers, giving a great sense of depth and detail, and really sets the tone for the futuristic game. The sub and main bosses are all detailed, well animated, and huge. The soundtrack is equally excellent, though it doesn't take advantage of the CD medium. They are all chip tunes here. Still, the Neo Geo hardware has always excelled in the audio department, and Last Resort is no exception. Each of the 5 levels has its own unique music track that fits the game's futuristic atmosphere perfectly. The firing sounds and explosions are also of high quality. Where Last Resort really excels is the gameplay. Like most shmups, the name of the game is recognizing and memorizing enemy patterns and placement. The first level is a breeze and the difficulty ramps up from there. Each level has a few unique challenges and you really have to use your head and your reflexes to get through. Your ship features a very generous hitbox, and when combined with the shield nature of the orb, it can be very satisfying to sneak through heavy enemy waves and bullet patterns. Last Resort features slowdown, which is helpful in some of the more bullet hell style sections of the game, but even then, it is ridiculous at times. Make no mistake, Last Resort is brutally difficult. Thankfully, the checkpoints are quite generous, and you can choose unlimited continues, which means with a lot of patience, you can get pretty far, if not complete it. The bosses, on the other hand, didn't feel very difficult at all, and went down rather quickly by charging up your orb and using it as a projectile. They are a bit like R-Type, and their specific weak points are extremely obvious. Like most Neo Geo games, Last Resort does have a 2-player cooperative mode, but I've never been able to test it. Finally, I wanted to briefly touch on the load times. Like many early Neo Geo CD titles, Last Resort has a long load when you first boot it up. But after the entire game is in RAM, there are no additional load times interrupting gameplay. Last Resort is easily one of my favorite shmups of the early 90s. The difficulty is high, and I am still a long way from a 1-credit complete, but making progress is still a satisfying experience. The main gameplay mechanics are straightforward but executed well, and the strange orb mechanics do give Last Resort its own personality. Above all else, Last Resort is just a really fun game. It doesn't hurt that the graphics and sound are extremely polished, rounding out the overall game. Last Resort is a must-own for the Neo Geo CD. 4 out of 5.